Welcome to Live from the Compound via Tape Delay. I am your host, Ted Brogan. We've got a lot to talk about today, so let's get to it. Since the last show, a lot has happened. The Cubs won a World Series. The Lakers are bad. Not as bad as I predicted, but still bad. The Pens are in the playoff hunt, provided Malkin can concentrate on scoring goals rather than fighting. And mercifully, the 49ers season has come to an end. In UFC news, Ronda Rousey got rocked again by Amanda Nunes, and Conor McGregor wants to box Money Mayweather for some reason. Right before her loss to Holly, Ronda was talked about for movies and was a household name outside the UFC world. And I think that's what might be behind Conor's quest to box. In order for him to cross over to movies, he needs to make a bigger splash than he can get winning in the UFC. Ronda had the gaudy win streak on top of her sex appeal. For a male fighter, that just isn't going to be enough. I hated this idea from the standpoint of a legitimate fight, but I am warming up to it for the purposes of pushing Conor's brand. I kind of understand why he wants to do it. If he wins, he can strut and say, "I told you so," and then he's instantly in line for the bad guy's henchman in Fast and Furious 15, The Search for Curly's Transmission. If he loses, he can just say, "Well, boxing's not my game." Then demand a rematch using MMA rules. This is the kind of thing that I think he's going to need to do if he wants to follow in The Rock's mighty footsteps. Just winning in the UFC, unfortunately for a male fighter, isn't going to be enough. Moving on. Here at the compound, we get tons of feedback from the fans. It comes in all forms. Phone calls, email, tweets, telegrams, carrier pigeons, etc. Some good, some not so good. Our producer, Rusty Shackelford, has been suggesting that we take the time to answer one or two. I said to him, "What are we doing here, Rusty? Morning zoo shtick?" But he's usually right when it comes to this sort of thing. So I hold in my formerly Mountain Dew-stained fingers today's listener letter. It comes to us from a Kent in Huron. All right, Huron checking in. Kent says, "I'm currently in a YouTube battle with the millions of viewers of your YouTube channel about the obvious homosexuality and intense racism of your videos. Well, Kent, as I've said many times before, pleasuring a nude man in a hot tub one time with a socked foot does not make me a homosexual. Not that I have anything against individuals of that persuasion. In fact, any race or orientation is welcome here at the spacious Brogan Estates. It doesn't matter if you're white, black, gay, straight, or maintain a savage belief system that goes against the rest of civilized society like GoBot fans. You're welcome here at the compound for a friendly debate. We may not agree on all issues, but that's okay. There'll be steaks on the grill and Miller Lite for all. So I want to say thank you to Kent for the letter. And remember, if you want to contact the show, send your comments to @TedBrogan on Twitter. Maybe you'll be able to brag to your friends and neighbors that you made it onto Live from the Compound via Tape Delay, like Kent here. Friends, many of you are subscribers to the official G.I. Joe Collectors Club, as am I. Don't forget to make sure that your membership is renewed by the deadline March 16th to ensure that you qualify for 2017's figure Big Lob. The 2016 figure was Pythona, and she was fantastic. Here are some pictures of my actual figure. Previously, I had a custom Pythona that I had made using an Aurora Singh head from the Star Wars Clone Wars line. It wasn't the worst custom I've done, but the combining of Joe and Star Wars parts didn't turn out as well as I'd hoped. So I'm thankful that the club made this one. For 2017, Big Lob fills another hole in my collection as well. I'm not a completist, thankfully, but I did start this collection thinking I'd try to get a figure for all the characters that appeared in the Sunbow cartoon, as well as the '87 movie. I've since expanded, but both Big Lob and Pythona were must-haves, and unique enough, specifically the heads, to make custom somewhat problematic. I can usually make a reasonable custom figure for something that hasn't been made, or if I miss something. For example, I missed out on the club's Footloose due to their credit card breach that year. I couldn't bring myself to put my card info on their site after that. Boy, did I miss out. Footloose ended up being one of their best figures ever, commanding top dollar on the secondary market now. However, camouflage fatigues and a mustached head are not that difficult to come up with using the figures that Hasbro offers at brick and mortar stores. So I was able to build one of my own that I'm fairly happy with. Finally, let's talk about the movie Logan. The lovely Mrs. Brogan and I went out for a date night and decided to see the movie. I should say here there may be spoilers ahead, so those of you who haven't seen the movie, you may want to turn the show off now. Okay, I can't say enough good things about this movie. It may be one of the best comic book movies I've ever seen, maybe since Dark Knight. The only fear I had going in was X-23. Little kid actors are usually a disappointment. Some of you may remember they mostly come out at night, mostly. But Daphne Keane was fantastic as X-23. She doesn't have lines until the very end. Then she starts screaming at Logan in Spanish, and he takes about 4 seconds before telling her to shut up again. I also love how they pulled no punches. Grown men were brutal to this little girl, and she was brutal right back. As they show in the trailer, they send some men into a building to get her at one point, and she comes out with a severed head and throws it back to them. She has a harpoon shot through her leg at one point. I was pleasantly surprised at how graphic they allowed scenes involving her to get. She has Wolverine's healing ability, so she bounces right back, of course, so I wonder if that plays into the amount of violence they're able to show happening to a little kid. Daphne Keane, what a great job. This is also the last ride for Patrick Stewart as Professor X and Hugh Jackman as Logan. It's sad to see them go, but this is certainly a worthy last movie to include the ends for their characters. In the end, they bury Logan, and the kids that he had saved put a wooden cross on his grave. They all walk away except X-23. She turns a cross on its side so it makes an X on his grave. I thought that was one of the most badass things I've seen in a movie in a long time. There was no after credits scene, but there was a sort of preview for Deadpool 2 at the beginning that was worth the price of admission on its own. So I am still holding out hope that there might be a Wolverine, at least maybe cameo, in Deadpool coming up, even though they've said, several times that there isn't going to be one. It would, certainly be nice to see. And you know what that sound means. We've reached the end of the show. Thank you again to Kent and Huron for your letter. I'd also like to thank our producer Rusty for another great show. This has been Live from the Compound via Tape Delay. I was your host, Ted Brogan. Thank you.